Good morning, everybody. It is Friday, the 17th of May, and here I am with my weekly market update. So let's go ahead and dive right into everything you need to know for this coming week. First of all, super exciting news for those of you who already own a home. Maybe you've had a home for quite some time and you got a super low interest rate. I want to offer you a brand new program that we have, which is our 5-day HELOC. You can get a home equity line of credit from start to finish in as little as 5 days with no appraisal. Super simple process. Let's see if you qualify. So if you're interested in tapping into the equity in your home, reach out to me, give me a call. The link is right here if you want to go to johnloanking.info/fast-HELOC. So johnloanking.info/fast-HELOC if you're interested in finding out about whether this 5-day HELOC is a good idea for you. Now, let's talk about my second topic. What is going on with interest rates this week? It's been a good week for interest rates. So we've seen the Federal Reserve talking about inflation, talking about jobs. We had the jobs report at the beginning of the month that was good news for interest rates, and the Fed's most focused on number for inflation came out on Wednesday, and inflation is down a little bit, which is a really, really good sign. It was better than what the expectations were, and it's the first time in the last few months that we've had good news for interest rates. So we've seen rates moving down this week. We're going to have a really slow week over the next 2 weeks with the holiday for Memorial Day. The next big report is going to be the first Friday in June, which is the employment report again. So we're going to see where the numbers pan out. We are definitely not out of the woods, but we're seeing interest rates start to see signs of coming down, and we're seeing some pullback in the concern about rates staying significantly higher for longer, but that may not necessarily be a good thing. And I'll explain that to you in just a minute. But first of all, real quick, for those of you who are waiting on Dream for All, it's continuing to hit delays. So the state came out 2 weeks ago and told the preferred loan officers, hey, or a week ago, they said, hey, we're probably looking at about 4 weeks, maybe the first week or two of June. Now they sent out an email to the preferred loan officers yesterday and said, yeah, we're looking at more like mid to late June before we announce people's results. So maybe we should have people planning on not knowing until maybe June 30th or July 1st. So just to understand, there's a lot of work that they're doing, and I think they underestimated the amount of time it's going to take to do the research they need to do to make sure that nobody lied about being a first-generation home buyer. So that's a critical thing that's happening that you need to be aware of, is Dream for All is taking longer for them to work through all of the winners and vet everybody. And so really, we're looking at probably another 6 weeks before you're going to hear anything. So just be prepared for that. My final topic for today is a big one, and I'm going to chunk this down and I'm going to talk about it over the next few weeks, or in a week or two, I'll put another video out with more detail about this. But here's really what we're dealing with right now is obviously an affordability crisis. And we've got interest rates that have climbed significantly and house prices that continue to climb. And it's to the point that a lot of people throw up their hands and say, John, how in the world can anybody afford a home in this market? But the thing that people aren't paying enough attention to, and I've been talking about it a little bit, but I'm going to give you some different ways to think about it, is inventory. So inventory, the number of homes listed for sale, has shrunk significantly. Now, a lot of people talk about this as being the rate lock-in effect, saying, hey, because I've got a 3% interest rate on my home and rates are at 7%, I'm not going to sell my home. I'm not going to upgrade to a larger home because I don't want to get rid of my 3% interest rate when rates are now at 7%. And there's truth to that. But what people expect is, hey, when rates come back down, if rates come back down to 4%, then somebody with a 3% interest rate is going to be willing to sell their home and trade up to another one because it's only a little bit higher interest rate. And I was reading a study, and I've been thinking about this a lot, but a couple of studies came out, one from Fannie Mae, FHFA, who runs Fannie and Freddie, back in March, and another one from Altos Research that came out just recently that talked about this lock-in effect and the general thinking that as rates come down, more homes will be listed for sale because people are willing to sell their homes. They think is the opposite. They think the challenge is really going to be that if we have rates come down significantly, there'll be more buyers wanting to buy. So that's demand. So everything in economics is supply and demand. How many homes are listed for sale is supply. Demand, how many people want to buy them. Demand has been lowered because rates are high. but so has supply. Okay, for the reasons that I just mentioned, that a lot of people don't want to sell their home and trade up to a high interest rate. But I'll tell you what, when you have a home that you own at 3% interest and rates are at 4% and you want to buy another house, most people, they're going to keep that 3% home and they're going to convert it to a rental property. So that's the dynamic that isn't going to make more inventory available. As a matter of fact, lowering interest rates, which is good temporarily in the short term, lower interest rates is going to help with affordability, but it's going to drive up prices. And the argument that was made in the Altos white paper that just came out, I actually buy into. I agree with it. And he said the best thing we can do to fix the affordability crisis is to actually have higher interest rates for longer, because more people are buying their homes at higher rates. And so if you buy your home and you get a home at $500,000, and maybe in your market that's a starter home, and the house you really want is a $900,000 home. Well, guess what? Somebody else is buying that $900,000 home right now. And the longer the interest rates stay stable, the more people are willing to jump into the market. There's stats, and I won't bore you with the charts, but there's stats that clearly show that it's not about what the rate is that stops people from buying. It's about the volatility in rates. If you're shopping for a home and you don't know if rates today at 6.9 are going to be the same in a month when you get into contract, or are they going to be at 7.5? You don't know. And so you end up in a position where you say, I'm not willing to even buy, because sure, I can afford 6.9 and I'm willing to buy at 6.9. But I'm not willing to spend all my energy and effort looking for a home, not knowing if rates are going to be at 7.5. But if you know there's stability, you're more willing to buy. So people are more willing to buy. F Sharp, I see your question. Hold on. My eyes are going bad. What'd you say here? We appreciate you keeping us updated. Looks like the NAR decision will bleed into the time prior to those looking for a home. Yes, I'll actually come back to that in a minute, because there's something about that. By the way, I'm getting old, so sometimes I need to use these glasses to read. Anyway, so I got distracted. I don't even know where I was. We were talking about supply and demand, and I was talking about the fact that lowering interest rates is going to, I know. You want to buy a house at $500,000 and you buy it. Somebody else buys a house today at $900,000 because they're willing to make the commitment to buy, because prices are stable, because interest rates are stable. And that's what we have right now, is stable interest rates. And more people are going to be willing to jump into the market. Now, that's not a good thing for affordability, because what ultimately we're going to have is more competition. There's not going to be more inventory when prices are stable, when rates are stable. There's going to be more people wanting to buy, and that's going to put pressure on prices to go up. Okay, so temporarily, rates staying where they're at, staying stable, is going to hurt affordability. It's going to make houses more expensive, and obviously the rate didn't come down. If rates drop right away, that's going to help affordability, but it's only a short-term fix, because ultimately what we're going to have is we're going to have a significant bump in house prices. So John, what's the solution? Well, this paper that I read by Altos Research proposes that the best thing for the market, which is not the medicine that we want to take, the best thing for the market is 2 more years of interest rates staying above 6.5%. They said the longer we're at rates over 6.5%, the more people are buying homes at rates over 6.5%. Those people, you buying homes right now, in 2 years or 3 years, are willing to sell your home because you don't have a super low interest rate. If you had a house at 3% and rates come back down to make it willing for you to buy something else, you're more likely to keep that home because you have a super low interest rate and use that as a home for a family member or as an investment property. So there's a unique, weird dynamic here that simply says the first solution to actually making housing affordable in the long term is to keep interest rates where they are and allow more people to buy at those higher interest rates. And it will actually create more stability over time because it'll keep house prices stable. We're not going to see a huge increase in prices. That will happen if rates go down. We're not going to see a huge drop in prices, which would happen if rates go up. So if rates stay stable, prices stay stable, but your income keeps going up. Over the next 2 years, people start earning more money. Now they can afford a higher monthly payment on a home, and prices and interest rates have stayed stable. Now, I'm not telling you that rates are staying stable. I think the Fed is concerned about inflation, concerned about employment, but they're also concerned about throwing us into a recession. And they've got to walk a really fine line here. But what I am telling you is one of the potential solutions to the housing crisis is to keep interest rates higher for a couple of years longer. The second thing I'll tell you that is a solution to the housing crisis is more supply, more homes coming on the market. And the problem is in the last 20 years, the answer to more supply has been urban sprawl. Let's build more homes out in the valley. Let's keep building in the outskirts of town. And the industry is shifting and they're wanting to do more infill. They're wanting to convert a large single family residence into a triplex, and let's chop it up into 3 smaller units. And there's a lot of movement right now for those types of things, ADUs and building on your land and adding more units, kind of shrinking a little bit the size of the home that everybody has and dividing it in 2 and turning it into a duplex. That's another really good solution, but that's going to take a whole different set of dynamics. That's going to take the money to afford to rebuild, to spend on converting that property from a single family home into a duplex or a triplex. But we've got to deal with both the supply, the number of homes that are listed for sale, and the demand. And as I said, I'm going to repeat for the 3rd time this morning, if interest rates drop, we're going to see prices skyrocket. If interest rates stay stable, we're going to see more buyers come in the door and more competition, and prices are going to move up a little bit, but that's actually the most beneficial to the market long term. Now, I am a huge proponent. I want rates to drop because I look at it as an affordability issue right now that we can fix right away. And I want every one of you that are out shopping right now to get the best possible rate. But the right thing for the market long-term would probably be holding interest rates higher for a little bit longer. All right, F Sharp asked me a question, and he said, appreciate keeping updated. Looks like the NAR decision will bleed into the time period for those looking for a home. Yes and no. So when we're talking about Dream for All specifically, and I mentioned earlier on this live stream that we're looking at probably not getting your vouchers until the beginning of July. So that NAR decision was supposed to be in effect the middle of July. They've postponed it. So it's actually going to be the middle of August, not the middle of July. But the truth is a lot of realtors are already changing their business practices right now. And I talk about this. I actually released a video on my Dream for All channel earlier this week that is an hour-long video about the process of buying a home from the moment you get your pre-approval until the moment that you get your keys. And in that video, the first thing I talk about, so if you don't want to watch the whole thing, watch the first few minutes, and I talk about this dynamic and what's changing with how you pick a realtor and how you engage with that realtor. And the simple truth is that the only change is you're going to have to sign an agreement with your realtor on how much they're going to get compensated. Now, you're officially on the line for that compensation, but you're going to ask the seller to pay for it. And if we see interest rates drop significantly, that's where we're going to have a big problem, because we're going to have lots of buyers wanting to buy and sellers aren't going to be willing to pay for your agent's commission. If rates stay stable or even move up a little bit, the seller is going to be very likely to pay for your realtor's commission. So these are all dynamics that are moving targets, because all the rules are still getting kind of figured out. How do we implement these appropriately? But you're right. We are definitely dealing with the issue of the NAR settlement and how that impacts how you as a buyer engage with your agent. And it's really, really important to stay in tune with that. So if you have questions, feel free to reach out to me directly. I'm going to continue to update you guys. Next week, I'll be releasing a video that talks about what happens from the time you go into contract until the time that you close escrow, who you pay, how much you pay them, how that entire process works. So I'm going to keep you updated on all of that information and help to guide you on how to really help make your homeownership dreams come true. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out directly. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.